Alright guys, and this is my last video for today, thankfully. Really tired of this crap. Um, luckily I got my idea for the two things to rant on from last Moto, so I'm going to rant about... This is the other one I just thought about recently. So I'm going to rant about the whole millennial thing, and then I'm going to rant about some BF1 stuff that has been on my mind for quite a while, and it just needed to be said. So, the millennial thing. The point I was making is that whenever they're always vilified, and I think I'm valid. I think I'm a valid person to have an opinion on this because I'm not even a millennial myself. Well, it depends because there's so much debate over where the generational lines lie. That it's kind of unclear. Like some people, from what I did research a long time ago on this, and from what I recall, is that like with where I was born in 1999, that some people would have that considered millennials because some people have it being like 1980 to 1999 or so, but others don't. Others have it like 1980 to like 96 or something like that, and it's confusing. So I think I can have an opinion on this because I'm practically not uh, a millennial at that point. Most millennials are in their 20s at least, or in their mid to late 30s, like from late 30s to early 20s. That's how I imagine it, at least from what I've seen. That's around the age group. And all I see online, whenever that word is in an article, in a title, in whatever, it's always with a negative connotation. It's almost like millennials a racial slur at this point. Obviously it's not. That's stupid. But I'm saying that it's getting to the point where saying that word is like is offensive. You never say it with a nice connotation. You're like, oh, those great millennials helping us out. It's always, you freaking millennial. Is that what you are, a millennial? And that's all you get. And it really frustrates me. Because I feel like every older generation is retarded. They just, I feel like they think that they know everything because they're old, but they're stupid, and they're just as stupid as we are, and they know it too. But just because they have that excuse, like, oh, we're old and we're experienced. No. They're just not vulnerable enough. If they were vulnerable enough to admit it, they would tell you that they know just as little, even with the extra time, and that they're very much on the same footing. In fact, I would even be very, 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 very willing to argue that many millennials that have gone through, an education, maybe even not with the education, just frickin' being alive with technology, are smarter than those older than us, like baby boomers and whatnot, because technology gives you such ridiculous power. I mean, there's so many things that you learn just randomly being on Google, that that you wouldn't have back in the day when it was just books, and there was you'd actually have to go to the library to research things, which I never even experienced. I'm just going off of what I've heard. That's foreign to me, having to go to the library. I've always had a computer. I have to look something up for a paper. Just type on the keyboard. Let me get it in the mic. Just go. And then bam. And then bam. That's it. It's over. After that, I'll find whatever I needed to find. I'll get whatever information I needed, and it's just there for me. And it's very easy to research too. Like there's no effort to it at all. And that's what's really great about our generation, is that we have access to all that. And, not everybody uses it probably as wisely as it should, or as much as it should, and understandably so. I think it's almost like we're spoiled in a way, because we've grown up with it. We don't realize the power that it holds. Whereas, some of those people with the older generations, they realize that. They use it in stupid ways too, though. Don't get me wrong. But they at least realize it. They realize, like, dude, you should have experienced having to go to the library to look up how to spell a word and not having autocorrect, or not being able to just Google, hey, what does blah 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 blah, and you like completely butcher the word, and then it fixes it for you. You know, and they have a point with that. You know, obviously they should have a better understanding, a better, you know, they should make better use of it, even though in most cases they don't. But I'm not going to rant about that. But yeah, my whole point with this is that I think that the technology, I'm gonna call it the technology generation, or the internet generation, more so than the millennial generation, just because I think that's a little more fair for what I'm particularly ranting about. I think that they get a bad rap for how knowledgeable and how intelligent they actually are. Because, you know, I'm a believer in evolution, and theoretically you think, well, it's the Flynn Effect. It's psychology, right? People get smarter over time. That's not necessarily, I'm not going to get into the Flynn Effect because that's not necessarily what it proves, because there's also, you know, there's also the possibility that that the Flynn Effect is more up to people getting more familiarized with standardized tests over time, because, you know, their IQ scores raise over time, but that there could be various causes for that. That could be, like I said, people getting used to those tests, and those tests being more abundant, so people are just taking them for fun more often, or tests similar to IQ tests for fun more often, and with that, you in theory should improve on those IQ tests. So you can't necessarily look to the Flynn Effect. Although that, you know, people getting smarter could be a cause too. That's the thing. It's like a correlate. You don't really know. I'm just going off what I remember from high school. I could have gotten that completely wrong. If I just got that right, I'm a beast. But yeah, what I was getting at is that, you know, I believe people, at least like by little increments, get smarter over time. And some people try to refute that by saying, oh, you know, like if somebody that just an average day Joe, you put him living, like, let's say 5,000 years in the past. Let's just random number. Let's just go 5,000 years in the past. And, you know, there's so much less technology that they had back then. And the whole argument is that, well, that person wouldn't even be able to build, you know, I don't know, a toilet or whatever. And that's very true. Like, we do, you know, the more down the line generations go, people do just get a little more lackadaisical with stuff like that. Like, they just don't really care about it because it's already there. It's already there for them. And at the same time, it's also kind of ridiculous too. Like, people live on each other's knowledge so much that, you know, I think it's kind of ridiculous to put that weight on a person that they would know how to construct. Like, just put everything in your room. You know, just look around at your room and look at everything in your room, and truly, honestly think to yourself how much of that stuff that you could actually, you know, if you were put way in the past, how much of that stuff do you genuinely think that you could legitimately recreate exactly as you see it, as it is now? And you'd realize that a vast majority of the stuff there, you probably wouldn't even have a chance. It probably wouldn't even be close. But I don't think that's a problem, though, and I don't think that makes you dumb. I mean, we live on each other's knowledge so much that it's really unfair to think that a person should know what makes up literally everything. Like, that's impossible. The whole point is, the further down the line we go, the less that we have to think about those, you know, the more we benefit off of what people have already done. And the more that we benefit off that, the more time that it gives us, and the more ability that it gives us to move on to, you know, greater things. You can say, oh, that person may not know how to put together a toilet. And I'll be like, yeah, but that person may also know rocket science. Like, it's a hard concept to grasp, but I do think in general people do get smarter over time. Does everybody? No, because there's obviously exceptions to the rule, and everybody's different, and blah 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 blah. But I'm just saying, like, in, you know, overall average, at least in developed countries. But wow, that was a long rant. I don't even get to talk about BF1 that much, so I'm gonna go on my BF1 rant really quickly. So BF1, people always sit there and bish. All I see in the YouTube comment section for any BF1 videos, oh, BF1's bad, let's go back to BF4. And it's like, dude, I'm convinced that the Battlefield community has just been hijacked by people that were disenfranchised with Call of Duty with its 3-year span with jetpacks and crap. I think it's just full of those people now because it just seems like the COD cycle. And I don't get it because if you objectively take a look at BF1 compared to BF4 and BF3, it is such a better game, especially at the early stages. At the early stages, BF3 and BF4 were broke super hard. And the same thing happened when BF4 came out. People were like, oh, let's go back to BF3. BF3 was perfect. But BF3, I think they tend to forget, had just as many launch issues as BF4 did at the launch. Was BF4's launch worse? Yes, I will admit that. But BF3 also had a ton of launch issues. I'm going to go back on what I said about the same amount. That's probably a little disingenuous. But a little, it's not true. But I don't have enough time to finish this rant. I'll do this in another video. See you guys later. Fuck.